welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the Czar of the playbook, and this is another edition of 4 Downs with the Czar here at MetLife Stadium, where the New York Giants knocked off the Philadelphia Eagles by the score of 28-23. Looking at first down in this ball game, Giants offense in the first half, I thought they came out with a great game plan. They spread the field, which neutralized the pressure coming from the Philadelphia Eagles. They couldn't get downhill like they have normally done over the course of 3 to 4 weeks. They had to be patient, and when you spread the field versus an aggressive style defense, it's easier for the quarterback to find where the pressure is coming from. It's easier for these offensive linemen to pick it up, and that's why we saw Eli Manning go deep down the field early on in this ball game. Looking at the Eagles' offensive takeaways in the first half, you look at Carson Wentz put the Eagles in a hole early with those 2 costly interceptions that led to subsequent touchdowns. They were down 14-0 before you can even blink an eye. But what I did like about these guys in the first half is that they attacked deep down the field. You also look at the running game. When you're talking about the running game, you're talking about Darren Sproles. He was the primary ball carrier, and he gave the Giants a lot of problems in space. But again, when you put yourself in an early hole, you're playing catch-up the entire game. But in the second quarter, throughout the rest of the game, quite honestly, Carson Wentz played a really good game. He overcame that adversity, that early adversity in the first quarter, and started to do a good job from the second quarter on. Moving on to second down, the Giants defense, I thought, again, came out with a great game plan. They pressed across the board. Man coverage on the corners, 1 safety back deep. Sometimes you saw 2 safeties back deep, and that really threw off the timing of the Eagles offense. They couldn't get those quick, short passing plays going, and when you're pressing on a line of scrimmage, you're asking the receivers to get off bump press consistently. They couldn't do that, again, which led to 2 interceptions by the Giants secondary. Again, defensive game plan. They shut down the running game early on. I thought they had an excellent game plan coming out to start this ball game. Moving on to the Eagles' defensive takeaways, the first half, I thought they had some issues. A lot of miscommunication on the back end. One ended up being a deep touchdown to Roger Lewis. You also look at the fact that they could not get the pressure on Eli Manning, which kept the defense on the field a lot in the first half. So again, blown assignments on the back end, miscommunication as well, not really getting pressure, doomed the Eagles in the first half. Moving on to third down, in the second half, Giants offense, they couldn't replicate that same level of execution coming out of halftime. They were sputtering, which allowed the Eagles to get back into the game. But what I did like was that the run game attempts were there. Maybe not the yards, but the attempts. And in the second half, we started to see more of Perkins, the young rookie out of UCLA, Paul Perkins, did some great things running the football, making guys miss in space. But that first half level of execution in the passing game and that offense as a whole wasn't there in the second half, and they were able to eke out a victory against Philadelphia. Looking at the Eagles' offensive takeaways in the second half, much better execution coming out of the gate. They allowed Carson Wentz to be Carson Wentz. He was making quick and decisive decisions, moving the football down the field, made some big-time throws on third down. Again, that's the reason why the Eagles got back in the game. They had much better execution. The running game started to pop a little bit with Sproles and also Smallwood. So the Eagles' offense started to get it going in the third and fourth quarter, just didn't have enough time to finish the drill. They ended up throwing a late ball that fell incomplete in the back of the end zone for the game clincher for the Giants, but overall in the second half, the Eagles offense did play well. And finally, looking at fourth down, Giant defensive takeaways. They were not as aggressive in the third and fourth quarter. They started to back up a little bit from that pressure, and they allowed some big plays deep down the field. You saw a lot of coverage busts from this Giants defense because they backed off a little bit from that pressure and allowed the Eagles to get back in the game. A lot of miscommunication also on the back end from the safety and cornerback position, just like we talked about in our preview video. And moving over to the Eagles' defensive takeaways in the second half, I thought the defense stepped up big time. They started to get a lot more pressure on Eli Manning. They really bottled up the running game. And also, Jordan Hicks played an outstanding game, had a late game interception, which gave the Eagles the ball inside the 30-yard line with a chance to go and win the ball game. So the defense clamped down in the second half. The offense picked it up. If they wouldn't have started out in an early hole, they may have won this ball game. Offensive player of the game for the New York Giants, I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr. 2 touchdown receptions on the day. One was in the first quarter off a quick slant where he took it to the house, and the second was in the second half on a nice jump ball in the back of the end zone, where in this corner of the end zone where he jumped over the defensive back and brought down the reception for the touchdown. He played an outstanding game for the New York Giants. The big reason why they won this one against the Eagles. Offensive MVP for the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Ertz, the tight end, the much maligned tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles, went over 100 yards receiving a day, did a great job finding soft spots in the zone, and every time they called his number, he answered. So Zach Ertz did a great job today for the Eagles, and they have to be pleased with his performance today and also moving forward. Defensive MVP for the New York Giants was once again Landon Collins. To me, he may be the overall defensive MVP for this football team. In this ball game, he had an interception. He also had a sack. He had a lot of tackles both at and behind the line of scrimmage. So he was once again all over the football field making big plays for Big Blue. Defensive player of the game for the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion, was Jordan Hicks. Not only did he make that big-time interception to help give the Eagles an opportunity to win the game, but he was also a monster versus the run and in space. You saw the speed getting sideline to sideline in the passing game, also in the running game. I think they have something special with the linebacker coming out of Texas. So that's a wrap from MetLife Stadium. Again, I'm Emory Hunt, the Czar of the Playbook. For more of our 4 Down with the Czar segments, visit our website at footballgameplan.com/4downs with the Czar.